What's your name again?
I'm Seth.
Oh, you cute.
Let's take a look at the craziest proposal you've ever witnessed as love and chaos collide in the pawn shop's hallowed halls. Bobby, J and Trina, a couple celebrating their 6th anniversary, went to look for an engagement ring in a pawn shop.
6th anniversary, 6-year anniversary.
Really?
Yes. And I'm gonna get him a ring.
You looking to get a ring?
Yes.
Trina, eager to locate the perfect ring, inquired about the cost of a specific ring that piqued her interest. The price tag revealed a cost of $350, which she thought was reasonable. Trina attempted to make the payment with her credit card, excited about the impending purchase. However, to her chagrin, the card was refused not once, but several times. Frustration began to rise within her as the opportunity of obtaining the ring faded. Trina became increasingly irritated and turned her rage onto the shop owner, accusing him of ruining her anniversary. As she vented her disappointment and rage, the tension in the room was evident. Trina's emotions were running high, and the shop owner, taken aback by her outburst, sought to provide answers. As the transcript finishes, a lesson from the encounter emerges. The advice is straightforward. If you don't have enough money, it's best to not go shopping. Trina's journey serves as a cautionary tale, emphasizing the need of being financially prepared while making purchases, especially for key occasions such as anniversaries.
Yeah, you need some help? You got that?
My name is Bebe.
A frantic woman walks into the shop, her eyes wide with hope, clutching a valuable ring she hopes to pawn. Her reasoning? A loan to save her mother from a looming disaster. Rick, the eccentric and unpredictable business owner, enters the picture. He examines the ring with a cheeky glint in his eyes and makes an unexpected offer, $300. But this isn't your average transaction. Rick's weirdness grows as the negotiation progresses. Rick walks to a passerby and, with a maniacal grin, offers him an insane proposition. Would you, my friend, be daring enough to suck on a pacifier for a mere $20? Everyone in the shop falls silent as they consider the request utter absurdity. The negotiation between Rick and the woman resumes amid astonished reactions and uncomfortable laughing. As they haggle over the worth of the ring, their voices rise and fall like a strange symphony. The woman maintains her stance, refusing to accept anything less than her preferred sum. A compromise is eventually done amid the tumult and laughing. Rick reluctantly agrees to make the financing available in exchange for the ring. The woman triumphs, clutching the $300 in her hands, a look of relief and surprise on her face.
I also wanted to know how much you guys would give me for it, like as a pawn, and then I pay it back.
In an unexpected turn of events, a woman attended a local pawn shop with a ring in hand, wanting to appraise it and potentially pawn it for some fast cash. However, a misunderstanding about the procedure swiftly turned the scene into mayhem. Because she was unfamiliar with how pawn shops work, the woman assumed that the appraised value of the ring would instantly transfer into the amount she would receive as a loan. When the business owner tried to explain the evaluation procedure to her, this misperception became clear. The woman became increasingly irritated as the shop owner appraised the ring. Frustration and distrust rose within her, prompting her to accuse the shop owner of stealing her ring for personal gain. The tension in the air was obvious as the woman's voice raised, adding to their mounting hostility. Suddenly, the situation became violent. Overwhelmed with rage, the woman threw a punch at the shop owner, surprising everyone. Onlookers were taken aback when they watched this unexpected display of aggression within the normally tranquil premises of the pawn shop.
How you doing?
How you doing?
Good, I'm Seth.
I'm Josh.
In one of the most bizarre episodes of Hardcore Pawn, a tenacious customer called Seth comes into the pawn shop determined to sell his 2 rings. But this isn't your average transaction. This Seth urgently requires $5,000 to cover his legal bills as a result of a DUI crash involving his neighbor's automobile. Chaos reigns from the moment Seth enters the business. He utterly disregards his girlfriend, who bravely attempts to offer some advice. Seth, on the other hand, brushes her off with a wave of his hand, displaying flagrant disdain in front of the stunned witnesses. Tension permeates the air as the pawn shop proprietor assesses the rings. A hefty $900 offer is made. But that isn't enough for the oddball Seth. He wants more and insists on a higher price. The fuse is blown and the situation rapidly escalates. The shop explodes with yelling and finger pointing. Seth's fiery temper crashes with the tenacious pawn shop owner, and his girlfriend's caught in the crossfire. The air gets charged with insults flying left and right. The confrontation intensifies with each passing second. Seth's outlandish antics and belligerent demeanor turn the shop into a battlefield. The ego conflict reaches a boiling point, leaving everyone stunned by the daring and madness of the event.
Got a few Native American artifacts here for you. This is a tomahawk right here. This is the War Club.
A man comes into the pawn store with a collection of Native American items. A tomahawk, a battle club, and a variety of pewter belt buckles were among his items. He approached the shop owner, eager to make a transaction with great expectations of a large payout. Recognizing the market worth of Native American artifacts, the shop owner admitted that such products sold well at the store. To the man's dismay, the owner discovered that the relics were not totally original, lowering their potential value. Undaunted, the man proposed a price of roughly $250 for his prized collection. The pawn store owner, though, had a different figure in mind. He offered a substantially smaller price of $190, much to the seller's chagrin, because he disagreed with the man's value. Tension suddenly surrounded the once promising bargain as tempers erupted. Unfortunately, things took an unusual turn when the man, clearly frustrated, lashed out and made an unpleasant statement against Ashley, a customer at the shop. The insulting remark fueled the argument even more, forcing the situation to spin out of control. Unable to reach an agreement and save the purchase, the man grudgingly exited the business, his frustration visible on his face. The once exciting transaction had devolved into a tumultuous and strange experience, leaving both sides befuddled and contemplating the unpredictability of such exchanges. Steve set out on a mission to sell his eye-catching collection of custom-made rims in a bustling part of Detroit.
Good. I'm Seth.
I'm Steve.
Steve, nice to meet you.
Hi, Steve. I'm Les. Nice to meet you, Les.
Amidst the vivid energy of the city, these were not average rims. They belonged to a high-rolling gangster and radiated opulence in excess. These rims were made to turn heads and demand attention, with spinners and dollar signs adorning them. Steve approached potential purchasers with a confident stride. His initial asking price was set at a stunning $600. His thought was that the rims were worth every penny, picturing a successful trade that would leave him feeling victorious. He had no idea that the buyer had other plans for him. During the course of the discussions, the buyer cleverly pointed out that the presence of imitation diamond CZs on the rims. He stressed the requirement for specialized tires to complement the rims, ultimately reducing their perceived value and casting doubt on their genuineness. Steve found himself in an unusual situation as prospects of a large payday gradually vanishing. Steve's urgency to reach an agreement became evident. In an unexpected twist, he reluctantly decided to accept a modest $70 store credit. The once assured seller was suddenly settling for a fraction of his asking price, leaving many bystanders perplexed and questioning his decision-making. Observers couldn't help but shake their heads in surprise as the deal drew to a close. The draw of the shiny rims had failed to translate into a profitable sale for Steve, and the buyer emerged victorious with a preposterous price.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I like your nail polish colors.
Thank you.
What do we got here? A laptop?
Laptop.
A woman hurried into the pawn shop, laptop in hand, frantic for cash for her sister's birthday. However, she ran into a big stumbling block. She had entirely forgotten the password to her laptop. She turned to the store clerk for assistance since she was frustrated and out of choices. The staffer, determined to help her, jumped right into cracking the password. They miraculously gained access to the laptop after a number of nail-biting tries. With the device now in her possession, the woman saw an opportunity to strike a deal and claimed she would accept nothing less than $165. However, maybe caught up in the frantic atmosphere of the business, the employee offered a jaw-dropping offer of $125 for the laptop. The bargain devolved into a circus as the woman fought tooth and nail for her intended price, while the staff seemed to lose touch with reality, constantly underbidding the already startled customer.